right, let's talk about the TILF, the Turtle Island Liberation Front. And I say TILF because it's right here in the complaint filed by FBI, which I was reading through this morning. All right, FBI disrupted a bomb plot for New Year's Eve. I've already seen some comments in the chat saying, oh, I wonder if this was an FBI created a plot. And it does not appear so. I know FBI just doesn't come out and say, hey, we're responsible for this, but I'm reading through the affidavit here, the complaint at least, and what I'm seeing is that, first of all, I've talked about this. There are 3 or 4 really good bomb making manuals that are circulating around far left blogs, and every time I see one on these far left blogs or far left websites, I send it to a buddy, an EOD buddy of mine from Afghanistan, and the last one I sent him, he looked through it and he said, "Oh yeah, this is legit. Like this is serious bomb making stuff." So these manuals are floating around out there and they are in circulation. A very important part of the last bomb making manual that I read, and I think most, maybe all of them even say this, they say, start small, go do tests. Don't just try to build something fresh and go from 0 to 60 and then go put it out somewhere. Tinker, experiment, start small, be safe. And then once you've confirmed that you have a working device, now you can manufacture them in bulk. And it seems to be that FBI disrupted this plan during the testing and evaluation, or the practice phase, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
So just from what I see, one of these 4 people were arrested. One of them is kind of the ringleader of this bomb plot. And she recruits a friend, and I'm just reading this off the affidavit. She recruits a friend, but that bomb, there's a handwritten document entitled Operation Midnight Sun, and that is what was given to a confidential human source that FBI had placed near them. So that is as far as I've read, that is the nexus between this bomb plot and FBI. So it does not appear to me like this was an FBI led or an FBI created plot. This seems to be an organic, far left, revolutionary bomb plot that a confidential human source just kind of got lucky due to an OPSEC failure, an operation security failure. And this plan fell into the hands of the CHS, who then reported it to the FBI. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't mean to step on your toes, but let's go ahead and get into the rest of the details here.
So there were some press conferences yesterday where authorities said that the targets were 5. There were 5 targets, 2 companies. They did not name them, but they said they were logistics centers. So this could have been something like FedEx, UPS, Amazon distribution centers. And then also, following the New Year's Eve plot, that this group had planned follow-on attacks against ICE agents and vehicles. And in the affidavit, the ringleader basically says that the idea is to deter ICE operations by targeting their agents and vehicles. There also was a 5th member of this group. So it's, according to the affidavit, there's a subgroup within the Turtle Island Liberation Front called the Black Lotus, the Order of the Black Lotus, and there were multiple members, and they use Signal as their communications, as their method of communications. Another 5th member of this group was arrested in Louisiana as well. The FBI said that they're not connected specifically to the California plot, but I think the idea here is that there were multiple different things going on within this organization, and this group of 4 was just one of them. And looking through it, I also think this is likely a genuine plot, because in the past, when there have been plots that the FBI was broken up and there have been accusations that they set it up, it's been multiple people in place by the FBI who drove the plot, and they were attempting to go directly from acquiring explosives to the operational phase, using often military explosives, things that they would be provided by inert versions by the FBI. In this case, they actually were buying precursors, chemicals to produce black powder explosives. And I think that this is the likely result for some of these groups of this bifurcation in the far left over the frustration with protests and other actions, because I've seen while some of these far left groups that have been posting to counter info sites and these far left blog aggregators saying that they support things like No Kings, they think they're useful for building up capacity for direct action. There are some of these far left groups that have said that they think that the protests are counterproductive and that they are not actually going to meet any of their goals, and they have been pushing for more direct action. And this includes even the pro-Palestine groups that we were covering in 2023, starting in 2023.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for the details. A couple things on this image here. This individual's name is Audrey Carroll. I assume that may be a female, but now that I'm looking at Audrey Carroll, what she looks like, I don't know, maybe not. They may be trans. I said she, it could be he. We'll just leave it there for now till we know. All right. So there's 4 of them there, and it looks like at least 3 of them are either female or female presenting. And actually, can we do this? Let me see if I can share my screen. I've got the affidavit pulled up here, and let's see what I can do here. Okay, there we go. All right. Let's just go ahead and read through this. And so 4 individuals arrested here: Audrey Carroll, Zachary Page, Dante Gaffield, and Tina Lai. They were arrested on 1 count of conspiracy and then 1 count of possession of unregistered destructive device. I imagine there are going to be more accounts, more charges against them as this investigation continues. Blah, blah, blah. All right. In late November 2025, Audrey Carroll, so this is the ringleader here, a member of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, or the TILF, provided a confidential human source an 8-page handwritten document titled Operation Midnight Sun that described a bombing plot. Another TILF member known as AK, who was later identified as Page, was also present during that meeting. Specifically, the plan contemplated planting backpacks with IEDs to be simultaneously detonated at 5 locations targeting 2 U.S. companies at midnight on New Year's Eve 2025 in California. This was in Orange County in Los Angeles. And these were, so all we know is they were logistics targets, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You know what this reminds me of? Back in 2020, there was a bomb plot against FedEx, and I'm not sure if it was investigated. I remember reading it on a far left blog, and there were some chat groups that were talking about it as well. I don't know how far it progressed, but they were actively, far left militant groups were talking about bombing FedEx, the FedEx facility in Memphis. And the reason why they were doing this, or at least talking about it, is because they wanted to disrupt economic activity and commerce. FedEx, that airport in Memphis, I think, is one of the busiest in the United States because it is the main FedEx hub there. And so they wanted to stop interstate commerce. And this was, if you remember back to 2020, there's this whole thing about shut down DC. And their plan was to shut down the U.S. economy, right? Grind down the gears of the U.S. economy to build political and social pressure and economic pressure against then President Donald Trump if he were to have stayed in office either legitimately or illegitimately. They said, let's bring the economy to a halt. Let's make Americans angry. And we'll say, look, we'll let the economy start running again once Trump leaves office. That was the plan. That was the big strategic plan. The people who made that are still around. Those plans are still around. They just need to be updated. So, this is not outside the realm of possibility that there was some, again, we don't know the exact details of what logistics facilities here, but, this could have been maybe part of a larger effort to attack the economic choke points. Back in 2020, there was that pamphlet that was circulating around these far left groups called Choke Points in a Fragile Network. And it was a map of the United States, and it showed commerce hubs. So ports that they said they would have to shut down either through protest or direct action or otherwise, however that may have been, but shut down the United States' ability to import and export. There were rail lines on there. There were commercial hubs in the United States like Memphis and St. Louis and a couple others. St. Louis has a massive rail hub area. So that, and I don't know if that necessarily is connected to this, but Robert, that was my first thought when I read that they were planning on bombing logistics facilities. And again, we don't know exactly what those are, but there were 5 of them. Could it have been the port of Los Angeles? And I don't know what county is Long Beach in?
I think Long Beach is its own county, but it could have been potentially the port of Los Angeles. What could have been a target.
All right. So the reason why I bring up the port of LA and Long Beach, because they're 2 of the largest in the United States. All right. Robert, anything else before we move on? Any other observations there?
No.
Okay. All right. So blah, blah, blah. They were planning on building complex pipe bombs. I'm not sure exactly what complex necessarily means here. Most pipe bombs are fairly simple and straightforward. Maybe some kind of timing device. Maybe it was going to be a cell phone activated. I mean, that would be a more complex than a simple timer and a fuse.
From what I understand, the plan was for the devices to go off simultaneously, so they would have to have timers. That's probably what they mean by complex.
Well, yeah. So potentially, yes. Yeah, it seems like remote controlled, the bombs we saw in Iraq and Afghanistan, some of which were triggered by cell phones. You basically call a certain phone number, and that's the trigger, the initiator for the device. All right, so we don't know, but yeah, maybe it's just a simple. Yeah, a timer is a little more simple than like an RCID, remote controlled, radio controlled. Included guidance to avoid leaving evidence behind that could be traced back to the co-conspirators. This is a huge thing. This is always mentioned in these bomb making manuals. This is mentioned in all the OPSEC guides. They talk about trace DNA. They talk about fingerprints, talk about basically all the biometrics that you could potentially leave behind. So a lot of these bomb making manuals that are circulated by the far left, they're not just, hey, here's how you assemble the components to make something go boom. It is also, here's how you avoid leaving trace. Actually, one of the websites is called Leave No Trace. And it's this whole website just about OPSEC, just about how to get away with these militant revolutionary actions. Excuse me. All right. There's a footnote here on the CHS is cooperating. It's confidential human sources cooperating with law enforcement and is validated and vetted. That's very important. That means this source has been validated for placement and access and responsiveness to tasking. So the CHS is, working at this point at the behest of the FBI. There may be some kind of loyalty that is a loyalty or monetary benefit or something there, or maybe ideological motivation as well. So at any rate, this confidential human source has been a reliable source of information since or around August 2021. This is very, very important. When we're talking about human intelligence, sources that continually repeat or that continually provide information build what's called a source reporting history. And if you're a human intelligence analyst and you're looking at this source, that's something that you want to go back and look at. So this source, let's just say, has produced 10 reports, and 8 of them have been assessed as accurate information. Okay, so at this point you'd be an A-rated source, which is very important because we pay attention to A-rated sources. So that was over 4 years ago that this confidential human source has been providing information to FBI. So this is very significant. This is not like a one-time source. This is not something they just recruited off the street last week. This is apparently someone who is continually providing potentially reliable information. The CHS is cooperating for financial compensation. Okay, so being paid money there. Monetary motivation. CHS does not have any criminal history and provided past reliable reporting on other cases and has provided reliable reporting in this case. Moving on. Let me know in the chat. We could probably stay here for the next hour at least reading through this. We're not even a third of the way through. Let's do this. You know what? Let's just keep going. And Robert, you can hang out if you want, or I'm just going to go through this for everyone here since I've got you. All right, since the initial meeting where the bomb plot was discussed, Carolyn Page recruited other co-conspirators to the plot, including Lai and Gaffield. The co-conspirators then took numerous steps towards executing the bomb plot, including acquiring bomb-making materials and traveling to a remote location in the Mojave Desert to construct and detonate test explosive devices on December 12th. This is where they are arrested. And again, this is part of that. All these bomb making materials say start small, go test your devices, make sure that you can build a functioning device, and then you can make whatever you want to make for when you go operational. They took steps to begin construction of the devices, including unloading the bomb making materials. So there's precursors, PVC pipes, and fuses from their cars. By the way, this FBI has surveillance footage of this because apparently they're flying a surveillance aircraft in the area, actively monitoring these people. And then once this surveillance aircraft confirmed that they were taking bomb making materials from these vehicles, that's when FBI drove in and arrested them. And beginning to assemble materials on the table, constructing a tent to keep the bomb materials shaded from the sun. Okay, so I was never EOD and I'm not an explosives expert, but we know that a lot of these explosive compounds can be very unstable and they have to be kept at a certain temperature. Apparently in this case, outside of direct sunlight, which could make those compounds volatile or unstable, could cause an early detonation. They continued wiping down the interior of one of the PVC pipes, and Carroll began discussing grinding a precursor for use in an explosive powder. FBI agents intervened and arrested Carroll, Page, Gaffield, and Lai before they completed assembling the functional explosive device. All right, the rest of this is background on Turtle Island. So I've heard of Turtle Island. This is a name. Turtle Island is North America, basically. That's what some of the indigenous groups call it. And so the Turtle Island Liberation Front, this is apparently the Los Angeles chapter, according to this affidavit. They are anti-capitalists. They want to decolonize the United States. They basically want to overturn, abolish the United States, abolish our system of governance. I guess, I don't know, send white people packing to wherever and give the land back over to the natives. According to open source information, Turtle Island is a term used by some Native Americans to describe North American continent. According to open source information and other evidence gathered, TILF, here we go, is an anti-capitalist, anti-government movement as discussed below. Based on information from the CHS, co-conspirators were participants in a signal messaging group called the Order of the Black Lotus, which Carroll described as a radical faction of the TILF. Among other things, the co-conspirators have used the Black Lotus group chat to discuss the bombing plot, including their plan to test explosive devices on or about 12 December. All right, I'm going to go ahead and guess that's how FBI learned about this testing day, and that's why they had the surveillance aircraft in the area of the Mojave Desert. Carroll operates an Instagram account for the TILF. By the way, their Facebook page, they did have a Facebook page. They're like 32 followers as of the time of arrest. I think this Instagram page had like 900 followers. So, I mean, 900 followers for a left-wing militant group is, pretty substantial. Not massive, obviously, but 900 followers. That's you're moderately well known, at least in that circle. I'd never heard of the Black Lotus before, or that I can recall. According to the FBI's review of publicly available information, content on the account references that TILF calls for the liberation of their lands and people in decolonization and tribal sovereignty. TILF also calls for the working class to rise up and fight back against capitalism, and they advocate that liberalism and peaceful protest will be the downfall of those who believe it is enough and that direct action is the only way. For example, the caption of a post made on November 28th of this year read, "Revolution is the only way. Stop peaceful protesting. Rise up, fight back. We are not outnumbered. They are. Organize and be ready." There are a lot of social media accounts. I see that stuff on Telegram all the time. Obviously on these far left, the Antifa blogs, they say stuff like that all the time. So you would think that is enough to at least, I don't know, maybe have some kind of FBI investigation, or at least state or local police to start investigating these groups. During the meeting, Carroll provided the CHS with an 8-page handwritten document, which we previously mentioned, CHS also saw that Carroll appeared to process 3 or 4 additional copies of the handwritten document. Within the document that the CHS was provided, there were 5 target locations identified, classified as marks, with 5 additional blank slots observable under the caption, "Add more if enough comrades." All right, so apparently, if they had additional co-conspirators to go out and place these bombs, they could have expanded their target locations. They're identified as property and facilities operated by 2 separate companies that are used or engaged in activities affecting interstate and foreign commerce. Okay, there you go. Interstate and foreign commerce. I'm going to go ahead and guess that's either ports or rails. Well, foreign commerce almost has to be a port. So maybe it's a port of Los Angeles. And then interstate commerce, maybe that's rail. And by the way, this is very important because far left groups do have a long history of train derailments. They have these little shunts. There's a couple of ways that they go out and attack these rails, but out in the Pacific Northwest, actually two Antifa militants were arrested, and they actually were convicted and got, I think, something like 20 years of prison time because they caused a train derailment, or at least they're attempting to cause a train derailment. There's a couple of things they do, but one of them, you basically put the shunt on the track, and it causes the train to jump off the tracks, and that really started back during the Standing Rock, during the what was that thing called? Dakota Access Pipeline. And the whole theory or the concept of this is cause the train derailments because the train, all the construction materials for Dakota Access Pipeline was being brought in by rail. So that's maybe not the first time, but that's at least why they started attacking rail, because they wanted to stop the flow of construction materials to Dakota Access Pipeline. All right, at any rate, moving on. Based on this FBI agent's review of the handwritten plan, the document outlined a plan of operation and identified that there would be teams of 4 OTG, or on-the-ground participants, plus 1 additional person who would assist the on-the-ground co-conspirators, which would be the off-ground member. Maybe doing some kind of intelligence support or communication support. I'm not sure what this off-ground member exactly would be doing. Maybe we'll find out. 3 members of each team would plant backpacks with IEDs at different points along their assigned buildings. The listed IEDs would be complex pipe bombs. 1 member of each team would create graffiti or a red triangle and 1 message of the team's choosing on the sidewalk closest to the building, while the other 3 are placing the devices. Okay, so they're claiming credit through this graffiti. They obviously want it to be discovered. The designated off-ground team member was assigned to be listening to police scanners or in a vehicle in case of an emergency getaway is needed. Okay, so getaway driver, listening to police scanners is a form of intelligence support. That's basically, rear level. Let's monitor police communications. I'm surprised that police scanners in Los Angeles are not already encrypted. I don't know. Robert or Jared, can you Google that and see? I'd be real surprised if you get anything substantial from Los Angeles County or city police from a scanner. At any rate, the written plan instructed that the bombs were to be detonated simultaneously on New Year's Eve. The plan described multiple operational security measures the co-conspirators should take to conceal their identities. First of all, this is not operational security. This is operations security. OPSEC measures, such as the use of a burner phone that would be disposed of after the bombings by submerging it in a concrete brick after destroying the SIM card and then disposing of the brick in a body of water. The target date of the operation, New Year's Eve, was identified as an opportune time because fireworks will be going off at this time, so explosions will be less likely to be noticed as immediately as any normal day. The plan emphasized that absolutely no mistakes can be made, and they outlined the use of black block over top. Okay, so they're talking about clothing here. Over top of a layer of gray casual block on top of normal street clothes. All right. So this is a tactic that we've seen since, probably 2016 at least. You have the outer layer is your basically operational wear, and that allows you to duck in an alley or go into a building. You just strip off the top layer of clothing, and now you're wearing street clothes underneath. And sometimes they've had a change of clothes in their backpack, so they dip into a space, they change out of their black block, they throw in their plaid shirt and khakis or whatever they're wearing, and then they they walk out and they try to escape the area. So fairly common tradecraft from a lot of different groups do that. But Antifa notably does as well. And then noted to keep their hair very tightly concealed and to wear gloves for the purpose of avoidance of leaving behind DNA. Yeah, potentially. Listen, when you're leaving behind trace DNA, I mean, maybe that could be from your hands. This is almost certainly to not provide latent fingerprints. DNA is probably going to come from hair. Maybe there's like touch trace DNA because you touch something, but you know, you're shedding hair all over the place all throughout the day. You're shedding skin cells. There's a lot of ways that we can get biometrics from this. And I know because my last tour in Afghanistan was on a biometrics program. The plan further instructed that participants should leave their personal devices at home and to make sure the devices were set up to stream a long movie during the time of attacks. So this is their alibi. They were at home. They were Netflix and chilling. So as to craft an alibi or plausible deniability by having it appear as though the actor was actively using their devices. The plan discussed pre-operational surveillance of targets. Okay, so this is very important. This is not just haphazard. Hey, we're going to go out here and plant a bomb. We're going to go do a drive past. We're going to do a walk past, maybe take photographs or video, look for security cameras, look for any kind of other maybe security features, look for locations where we're going to plant these devices, identification of D-block or declothing locations, and not leaving anything other than the IDs behind as they could not risk evidence tracing back to us. The plan also noted the benefit of placing a small pebble in a shoe to alter the natural gait to obfuscate their identification. All right, so a lot of people talk about gait analysis, like your gait, your walk. It is a real thing. Many people can be identified by their gait. So you put a pebble in your shoe to defeat any kind of gait analysis, like if you were captured on video, for instance. And that's because everyone has, first of all, the length of your legs are rather important in terms of how far you step. And, you know, you can just look at mannerisms and walking speed and some other things. I never looked at gait analysis, but apparently people can be identified through that. Instructions on how to purchase materials. Oh, by the way, and this is very important because if you have a video of a person in black bloc walking and then they go into a store or they go into a facility and then they come out wearing different clothes, it may be difficult to tell that those are the same individuals. But if you have video of both of those individuals walking, you can perform gait analysis and then say, yeah, we think more likely than not this is the same person based on how they walk. Instructions on how to purchase materials to construct a pipe bomb suggested using cash only, purchasing in small quantities to avoid suspicion, and splitting purchases amongst team members rather than individually. So this is an operations security or OPSEC measure. In addition to the plan of action and operation security tactics, detailed instructions were provided on the components required to build a pipe bomb, as well as how to create homemade gunpowder. The details identified a step-by-step method of crafting the pipe bombs, the source ingredients and ratio of source ingredients of gunpowder, the tools necessary to effectively produce gunpowder, and the general safety tips for the production of the explosives. Based on information from FBI bomb techs, I understand that the bomb-making instructions, if followed, would likely create an operational explosive device. All right. Well, guys, we're not even halfway through. We're going to go ahead and, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. You want to keep going? May as well keep going. Robert, Jared, what do you think? Hang out for a few more minutes. All right, let's discuss the attack plan with other co-conspirators, including co-conspirators 1 and 2. Based on the information, the confidential human source in review of the audio recording from the meeting. Oh, there's an audio recording of the meeting on December 2nd. So this confidential human source is probably wearing a wire in this case. You know, it's surprising with all that OPSEC, you know, no one thought about dressing down to your skivvies to have this meeting. Another in-person meeting occurred between the CHS, Carolyn Page, co-conspirators 1 and 2, each of whom had a TILF alias, were present at the meeting. The meeting occurred in or around downtown Los Angeles. At the meeting, which was intended as an opportunity to produce content for a separate group, CHS saw Carroll, who's the ringleader, Audrey Carroll, provide a copy of the handwritten document containing attack plans to co-conspirator 1, who acknowledged the plan and expressed concern about the timeline, indicating they were running out of time to complete the plan. The confidential human source also identified that co-conspirator 2 was likely aware of the plan, but did not make additional comment. Carroll stated that co-conspirator 2 could not do stuff with them, but could provide off-ground support, such as monitoring police scanners. Co-conspirator 1 returned the plans as Carroll wanted to keep the copy to make additional copies. Number 2 was present for the described interaction. All right. Approximately 11:30 p.m., FBI agents conducting surveillance saw Carroll depart the downtown Los Angeles location with co-conspirator 2. All right, so they had a surveillance team on Carroll. They knew about this plot, obviously, ahead of time. Followed them to a motel in the Pico Robertson neighborhood of Los Angeles. All right, let's see what this footnote says. CHS believed the document was the same as the bomb instructions Carroll previously gave the CHS because it consisted of the same kind of paper, was written in the same blue ink as the bomb instruction. Okay, remember, these copies are handwritten. They're not electronic or digital. So Carroll apparently wanted a copy of this so that she could transcribe it and make another handwritten copy. Written in the same blue ink as the bomb instruction document, as well as the comment regarding the timeline of the plan, Carroll first handed the document to co-conspirator 1, who asked if the plan was for the same night. Carroll said it was for the end of the year, that it was the official plan, and that Carroll had given the codename Operation Midnight Sun. All right, they had this meeting in this neighborhood of LA, more than 10 miles away from the downtown location where they were first dropped off. Surveillance saw co-conspirator 2 shortly thereafter with no passengers in their car, which indicated that Carroll had been dropped off at the motel. They meet on December 7th to further discuss the bomb plot and their intent to conduct future attacks on federal officials. So there will obviously be many more charges coming on this. Based on information, including an undercover FBI employee who was present during the meeting, this agent knows the following. On or about the early morning of December 7th, we'll say the informant and the undercover FBI agent met with Carroll Page and a male known to the group as Nomad, later identified as Dante Gaffield. Oh, look, his alias was Gaffield, and his last name is also Gaffield. James Bond level stuff right there. Carroll stated she had the plan, and Gaffield handed Gaffield 4 sheets of paper with writing on the front. In the back of each page, which Gaffield and the FBI agent read. The agent later told law enforcement that the papers contained detailed instruction on how to construct a black powder pipe bomb. Following the Gaffield's review of the attack plans, Carroll asked whether some of his comrades would be on his team. Gaffield responded that he would talk to them. Okay, so apparently Gaffield may be from a different group, and this individual was recruited, and now Carroll, who is the main ringleader, was asking Gaffield if Gaffield could bring some of his crew over and expand this operation. Gaffield was added to the Black Lotus Signal chat group, which the co-conspirators used to discuss logistics for the testing of their explosive devices in the desert, among other things. Carroll then took back the handwritten document, stating it was the only copy she currently had, that she would make more copies if Gaffield and the FBI employee, or the FBI agent, wanted to be a part of the operation. In response to a question from the FBI agent, Carroll said that she had conducted the research for the black powder instructions in the ID plan. Okay, here's my question. So you have this agent here, this FBI agent, and who must have been brought in, introduced to the group from the confidential human source. I'm only guessing that's the case. So it looks like the FBI agent used this confidential human source as basically an access agent to have this FBI agent introduced to the group and brought in to the plan. In operation security, specifically in vetting, I would just say it's pretty common to have these kinds of groups use basically a vetting system where they say, okay, this person is vetted, or this person is well known. We've known this person for years, and we've built up some trust with him. And if this person says his friend is good to go, then we will trust that. Okay, that's the vouching vetting system. And it can work. Obviously, it worked. It was an operation security failure for the Black Lotus people here, obviously. Carol said that she had conducted the research for the black powder instructions in the ID plan and also acknowledged the guidance in the plan for co-conspirators to place a pebble in their shoe to change their gait. Page told the attendees of the meeting that they were doing things as cleanly as possible and that it was 100,000% that the FBI would be onto them. Correct there. Carol discussed some of the co-conspirators who would take part of the bombing. Specifically, Carol stated to the attendees that co-conspirator 1 would participate in the operation and co-conspirator 2 would be an off-the-ground member, referring to the co-conspirators assigned to monitor police scanners while other co-conspirators sat and detonated the bombs. Jared or Robert, did you look up and see if LAPD, I mean, I would imagine their police channels are encrypted. What did you find out?
From what I can find, actually, most of their channels are not. Their general dispatch and most of their other channels are not encrypted. Only their tactical channels are.
Wow. That's amazing because here in Texas, pretty much every large metro area now, they all run encrypted. I would just assume that is the case for, apparently it's not the case for many major, or all major cities at least. All right. Thanks for that, Robert. Moving on, Carol stated that she had acquired some components, 13 PVC pipes, and that she had bought potassium nitrate on Amazon using a burner account that was scheduled to be delivered. Jesus, these people are dumb. All right. Paige asked the attendees if they would a burner account on Amazon. Okay. Asked the attendees if they would be interested in receiving firearms training from another group that had training approximately 1 month ago and was willing to train them on the use of firearms. Carol also told the meeting attendees that she had contact whose identity is known to the FBI who could obtain unregistered ARs. Okay, this is in the state of California, which likely refers to AR pattern rifles, like AR-15s. Carol also stated that one TILF member is a former military service member who might be able to get them parts. I have noticed, I have come across a handful of veterans in these far left networks. Somewhat local to me, there's a chapter of PSL, which is Party for Socialism and Liberation. They're a revolutionary political party. And the individual I met was an Air Force veteran. And so there are veterans among them. We know that for sure. Paige and Carol discussed plans for future attacks after the New Year's Eve bombings, namely plans to commence targeting ICE agents in vehicles with pipe bombs beginning in January or February 26, with Carol noting that that would take some of them out and scare the rest of them. During the December 7 meeting, Carol also confirmed she operated the TILF Instagram account. Among other things, Carol stated she met a co-conspirator whose identity is known to the FBI by using the TILF Instagram account. Carol Page, Gatfield Lai, and others use this Signal chat group provided by CHS Conversations with FBI special agent involved. In the debriefing of the confidential human source and other law enforcement personnel, this agent knows the following. All right, so the CHS, the confidential human source, communicated with Carol using Signal. In the messages, Carol provided a list that identified components, chemicals, and tools, along with prices, which would be required to create the pipe bombs needed to go through with the planned attack. All right, guys, listen. Anytime you're using these encrypted, and I'm not telling you this to promote anything, I'm just pointing this out. Your Signal chat group or Wire or whatever cell phone based encrypted app you're going to use, guys, even if it is encrypted, even if it would take a long time, let's just say it would take a long time, let's just say to break the encryption. If you have multiple members who are on that Signal chat group who are also using electronic devices, it doesn't matter how good the encryption is if there is a problem with the endpoint. And in the case where FBI has one of these electronic devices, like a cell phone, that is also sitting on the Signal chat, it doesn't matter how good your encryption is. They're seeing everything that you were saying in this channel. And I'm not saying, well, I'll leave it there for now. At any rate, Carroll provided, let's see, we covered that. On the list of items, several bomb components were listed as being already purchased or were already designated to be acquired by another comrade. Carroll also stated that they should purchase a few burner phones, instructed to be bought with cash only. I don't think anyone could credibly claim that. Now, if you have a burner phone that you sign up for, you use for e-commerce, you use for Amazon, or use for, Google, whatever. Okay, that's one thing. I don't think anyone can credibly claim that burner phones are secure anymore. Not anymore. There's so many ways that you can simple OBSEC violations will probably identify you with burner phones today. And, this is not the case 10, 15, whatever, 20 years ago. I was buying the little AT&T burner phones and getting you pay for them in cash. You bought an AT&T card in cash. You didn't have to register anything. And so you could, NSA, GCHQ, they're basically telling their employees to drive 50 miles away from wherever you live. Obviously, leave your cell phone at home. That's a problem of co-location. If that burner phone is anywhere near your actual cell phone, that's a co-location problem. May as well just get rid of that burner phone and start over. So, at any rate, they're saying drive 50 miles away from your AO, basically, to use the burner phone. I'm going to guess that these people didn't do this. At any rate, several co-conspirators, including Carroll Page, Lai, and Gatfield, have used a messaging group on the Signal app that is titled Order of the Black Lotus. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to give anyone any tips or anything, but yeah, if you're in a terrorist group, probably don't name your Signal chat or the name of your terrorist group. Just a thought. On December 5th, Carroll wrote that the Black Lotus Signal group was our group for everything radical. This is another OBSEC violation. You want to well, I'm not trying to provide anyone advice here, but just typically in OBSEC, you want to compartmentalize stuff. You don't want to have 15 people sharing all this information on the same group. You want to break them up and keep people separated, keep things compartmentalized. This is a big difference, and I will just say this. There's a big difference between reading an OBSEC manual online and what you actually put into practice, obviously two completely separate things. Among other things, the co-conspirators have used the Black Lotus group chat to discuss the bombing plot, including their plan to test explosive devices in the desert on or about 12 December. On December 5th, Carroll forwarded instructions to the CHS for the desert explosive testing that they were originally posted to the Black Lotus group by Page. The instructions included geo-coordinates for the planned campsite, which corresponded to a location in the Mojave Desert, specifically in Lucerne Valley, California. The instructions included a screenshot of a satellite map with markings depicting where we will set up camp and where we will test. Okay, so they did some rudimentary map reconnaissance, at least pulled imagery, it looks like, probably from Google Earth, to figure out where they're going. The instructions indicated there was a morning group and that Page would meet up with the group at night. Among other evidence, agents identified the co-conspirators based on surveillance, the monikers, so their aliases they used, which they have used both during in-person meeting and in the Signal chat group, and or business records, including location data associated with cellular phones the co-conspirators were believed to have used. Page assured the group that Page knew the desert extremely well. The instructions stated, the net day, we will take my Jeep northeast to the test area for doing the thing. I will have a pop-up and table. So this is the pop-up tent to shield their explosive components from the sun, and table so we can set up under that and then use the hills for testing. And maybe the pop-up tent, I'm guessing it was to make sure the explosive compounds weren't directly exposed to sunlight, but maybe this was some kind of surveillance countermeasure, maybe. or maybe it was for both purposes. Page's instructions to the group further stated that the group will only have 2 burner phones to use in case of emergencies and for directions on the way out. Once everyone arrived, their phones would be put in a small cardboard box completely sealed with aluminum. Okay, so they try to make a Faraday cage there. Once everyone arrived, okay, so this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Once they arrived to the test site, then they were going to put their cell phones in this Faraday cage. The phones would not be returned until the caravan was out of the campsite and back to the main road. Okay, I may have misread this. Apparently there was some maybe staging area, and then they put their cell phones in there, and then they wouldn't get their cell phones back until they left the campsite and they were back on the main road. They're running into the same co-location problem. Now all their cell phones are in the same exact area. If you know one person's a bad person, you just look at the location history of the cell phone and you figure out everyone that person came in contact with. And now we know a lot more bad people. On December 8th, Lai, using the signal alias Kickware, wrote to the group and confirmed Lai would be going to the desert with the group, had a cargo box on top of their vehicle that would fit camping gear. During an exchange about bringing shoelaces and or cotton string, which from the context of the conversation was being discussed for the co-conspirators' use as a fuse for one or more of the explosive devices, Lai posted photographs depicting string in what appears to be multiple packages of shoelaces. Okay, I'm not a bomb builder, not an EO guy. I'm just going to guess there are far better commercially available fuses than shoelaces. Notably, while observing Lai's residence, agents saw a vehicle with a cargo box attached to the roof. Okay, so Lai was also under surveillance. In response to Lai asking what kinds of string was needed, Page stated cotton string that can be braided together. It being cotton is the important. Okay, so I guess the cotton is the important part because it's maybe slow burning. In response to Carol asking the group, someone's getting the wider diameter PVC 2, right? So this is the PVC pipe. I have 13 of the 1 inch already cut. Yeah, I need to get that. Can you remind me what diameter I need to bring? Carol responded 3, 4, 5 inch, or maybe a small amount of each if you can find some. Okay, 3, 4, 5 inch PVC is a pretty big pipe for a pipe. It's not like that little, like 1 inch little aluminum pipe you see. On December 9th, Lai sent the Black Lotus group chat a picture depicting twine, which had been taken from inside a vehicle, stating she had found a bunch of these. Sissel, I think, will that work for what we need? Page responded that Page thought it would and that they could test it. On December 10th, Page messaged the group stating that 2 of the ingredients were acquired for the recipe. Page also Page also confirmed the starter was being acquired that evening. Based on my discussions with FBI agents conducting surveillance, I know Page was under FBI surveillance at the approximate time this message was sent, and that agents saw Page obtaining a package from an Amazon pickup location located in Carson about 15 minutes before Page sent the message. One second, guys. I'm going to look up Carson, California real quick. Okay, that's in the LA-ish area. Later, please tell me this is not their Amazon burner account pickup location. Later that same day, by the way, guys, if you're under FBI surveillance and you are using an Amazon burner account, they're going to have access to that information. They'll see where that thing is shipped. Maybe you will. They're going to see you pick up whatever you ordered from your Amazon burner account. FBI agents saw Page purchasing pistol primers from a store in Irvine, dressed in a manner to obscure Page's identity, namely wearing a medical mask, gloves, ball cap, and long sleeve shirt. I don't trust anybody wearing a medical mask in 2025. Based on conversations, or maybe not even 2020, based on conversations with an FBI special agent, Bomb Tech, the primers that Page purchased could serve as an initiator for an IED. Carol replied to Page's message about obtaining supplies, writing that she checked the supplies I'm getting and one was already delivered. Got to pick it up tomorrow, but yay. Regarding travel to the desert, Page wrote on December 10th, the other navigator, please have a burner phone, no phones beside burners, and all phones except navigators to be wrapped in foil or Faraday bag for the entirety of the trip, and install OSM and. It is an open source map, so no corporate tracking. Same day, Gaffield wrote, I have a few burners, but I'm saving for the big event, the big party. Celebrate emoji. All right, this is something stupid the Taliban, excuse me, it wasn't the Taliban. This was in Iraq. They would call suicide bombings the wedding, and they would like call or text each other. Like, oh, brother, inshallah, are you ready for the big wedding? And they said, yes, I have the bride who's the suicide bomber. They would use these, these silly little code words, which we obviously knew what they're talking about. Taliban used things like, oh, brother, I'm in need of tomatoes for dinner. And he's talking about, ammunition or whatever he was looking for. I don't even remember what tomatoes was, but they would say this stuff. And, you could just tell. It's like, okay, these guys are not talking about a wedding, obviously. On December 11th, Page stated, after further research, I retract my earlier statement of specializing in electrical work. I have the basics down. Building circuits is beyond me, which is needed for digital timer. Okay, there you go. So it was a timed ID. There are rudimentary options still. In a direct message on Signal, Carol, who is the ringleader, said, I kind of had this notebook where I wrote down multiple plans that never happened or got delayed. So it's like my terrorist diary, LMAO. I have to get rid of that. The co-conspirators take additional steps to obtain explosive precursors and other bomb-making components. Carol purchased 2 5-pound bags of potassium nitrate to be delivered to the Amazon counter. Oh, yeah, let's just go to Whole Foods where we're going to be seen on security cameras. In Los Angeles, potassium nitrate was delivered on 11 December. Based on text communications that co-conspirators exchanged via Signal and information from agents conducting surveillance on Lai, I know that Lai picked up the box of potassium nitrate referenced in the paragraph above on or about 11 December. Based on my review of Signal messages provided by the confidential human source, conversations with an FBI special agent involved in the debriefing of the confidential human source and this undercover FBI agent, conversations with other law enforcement personnel involved in this investigation, my review of recorded conversations taken from the co-conspirators' vehicles in my review, blah, blah, blah. Here's how he knows all this stuff. On the morning of 12 December, the 4 knuckleheads traveled to in or around the Lucerne Valley in 2 vehicles. So they're going to the test site here. For the majority of the trip to the desert, the informant was in one car with Carol and Lai, and the FBI agent was in the other car with Page and Gaffield. In the FBI agent, the vehicle where the FBI agent was, Page discussed using cigarettes as a delayed fusing device for the explosives once they arrived in the desert. Carol explained to Lai that the day's events were meant as a test run for the New Year's Eve bomb plot, which Carol described in detail, stating, what we're doing will be considered a terrorist act. In response to Carol's detailing of by the way, I was Googling this morning just to see what they were saying. And most of the media outlets were like, oh, FBI uncovers bomb plot. And that was the headline. And one of them was like, far left bomb plot foiled, feds say. In other words, I haven't been watching CNN, obviously, this morning. I'm guessing this is not getting wall-to-wall coverage that it deserves. Carol's detailing of the New Year's Eve plot. Lai asked if there would be any people at the bombing target locations. Carol responded in the negative, but noted that if they saw any people, such as a security guard at any of the locations, they would warn them. All right, here's their stuff. Activated charcoal, some free Palestine, stickers. What is that? Playing cards, maybe. Gloves. Wet wipes. Can't tell what that is. Urine bottle, maybe. Duct tape. A little keffiyeh or whatever they're called. More gloves. Can't tell what that. Oh, that's a little. What is that? battery thing, maybe. Can't tell. All right. That's a pretty substantial pipe bomb right there. It's a substantial PVC. Oh, some Arizona tea or something. Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell what any of this other stuff is. There's some smaller. Yeah, like we're used to seeing pipe bombs that diameter PVC. All right, based on the information, shortly after the co-conspirators began transferring the precursors and other bomb-making components from their vehicles to the campsite, these three began setting up the bomb-making materials on a table. Oh, you know what? I kind of said you're in bottle tongue-in-cheek, but that may be some kind of chemical compound that's used in the making of the explosive components. Gatfield and others set up a tent behind the table to keep the bomb-making materials and the group shaded from the sun. The co-conspirators also took out a bag of charcoal and prepared to start grinding one of the precursor powders that would be used to create an explosive black powder after the FBI agent alerted law enforcement. Well, listen, I don't know. What is it? Undercover employee. I'm assuming that's an FBI agent. I don't know for sure. We never use the term UCE in intelligence, but apparently that's a law enforcement term. I'm just guessing that's an undercover FBI agent alerted law enforcement with a predetermined signal. Remember, this group is under aerial surveillance right now. So there's a signal like taking off a hat is like a pretty common one, or, putting on a jacket or taking off a jacket or something. I don't know. There's this predetermined signal that you do that you're watching for. And when you see your source do this predetermined signal, that's basically your trigger to follow a vehicle or to later drop a bomb on whatever, or in this case, apparently to come out and arrest them. So I'm guessing this FBI agent was just watching to confirm that this was actual chemical compounds, that they were actually mixing them, trying to make a functioning explosive device, because then you can go in and arrest them and charge them with possession of an explosive device or whatever the charge is. A predetermined signal indicating that bomb testing was imminent. FBI personnel intervened, and they were arrested. Based on information from FBI personnel who searched the campsite, I know the FBI seized, among other items, 2 containers of potassium nitrate, charcoal, and a bag of activated charcoal powder, sulfur powder, approximately 20 pieces of PVC pipe in multiple diameters, a gallon jug and water containing gasoline. Okay, that's what that was on the table. 5 glass bottles, bundle of twine in a bag, 7 cloth rags. Okay, between the cloth rags, the glass bottles, and the gallon of gasoline, maybe they were going to make Molotov cocktails to test out, maybe. Respirator goggles and 6 boxes of primer. Based on FBI bomb tech review, the FBI bomb tech determined that the components could likely be used to build both an IED and Molotov cocktail devices, and that the components were readily assemblable. Based on this FBI agent's conversations with other agents and a review of photographs, I'm aware of the following. They executed search warrants on the residences and seized, among other items, the following. Let's see. While no end caps were found at the campsite, so those are the pieces of PVC that fit on the end of the PVC pipe, the co-conspirators could have improvised using other material to plug the end of the PVC pipe, although such methods would have been less effective than using a proper end cap. I wonder why they didn't have end caps, because, well, basically, if you don't have end caps, you're basically directing explosive blast out the sides rather than all around. As noted above, there were also sufficient parts to create several Molotov cocktail devices. All right, in Carroll's residence, posters and materials associated with the TILF. This is the Liberator. Looks like a leftist newspaper. A sign, America is fascist. Something, the resistance, something occupied. There's another little flyer, it looks like, for a movie night and an organizing meeting in the LA area. TILF, death to ICE. Looks like maybe a note or a card or something there that says to our comrade. Some other little flyers and pamphlets, zine looking stuff over here. In Page's residence, a copy of the handwritten attack plan detailing the bombing. In Gatfield's residence, a taser device that law enforcement records indicate had been stolen from the U.S. Federal Protective Service. So maybe that was stolen during a riot or taken off an officer during an altercation. In Lai's residence, a metal saw next to shards of PVC pipe. Okay, this is very important. I don't know exactly. Well, you know what? I'm not going to say. GWAT veterans will look at that and know exactly what I'm talking about, because this is also appearing on YouTube. I'm just leave it to everyone else's imagination. Handwritten notes reflecting ideologies aligned with TILF. The co-conspirators did not register any destructive devices. Oh, you mean they didn't register their pipe bombs with the ATF? Okay. For all the reasons described above, there's probable cause to believe that Carol Page, Gatfield, and Lai committed violations of conspiracy and possession of unregistered destructive device. There will be follow-on charges. All right, guys, thanks for bearing with us. And that is